Horror Lies.
Guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe. It is week 552 here at Body Bags. I am your regular Wednesday evening host. Here at Body Bags, it is the end of the month. That means it's theme week. It is ghost hunting gone bad, I think is what we're calling it. So all week long, Monday through Friday, films related to this idea, right? And for my little part, a film that I've wanted to review for a long time, man. The Deep House from Alexandre, Bustillo, and Julien Maury. They're French, so I probably got their names wrong, so apologies. The Deep House. Yeah, these are the guys who brought us things like Among the Living, which incredibly shot. That movie is really good. Really needed in my collection. That has some really super creepy moments. Livid, I think Inside as well, right? Leatherface, which I'm probably more of an apologist for that film than most. Pretty sure I reviewed that too on Body Bags, so it's back there. Yeah, Inside from 2007. But their latest effort is an underwater, and we can put it under this label, ghost hunting gone bad. Not really so much in the ghost hunting business, paranormal, supernatural per se, really an exploration of old architectural finds, which may come with it. A sense of dread, local superstition, fear of what may lurk for various reasons. So I thought it would go well under this. And it is an experiment of sorts as we're dealing a completely underwater film. And unlike Underwater, which I do believe all the water was filled in CGI, which is great. I really love it. And that movie is actually the last official movie of old 20th Century Fox. But this one is practical done. So a house is built submerged in water and 30 meters, I think. Did I write that down? Well, here's what I wrote down. The house was built on large grids and progressively plunged into a 9 meter deep water tank. So that's nearly 30 feet. It had to be out of the water for days at a time, just simply because, and if you see the movie or seen the movie, will see it. And I do suggest this movie for sure. Universal had a hand in this, which I wish they would have saw a need for wider distribution. Like it hasn't seen a US release yet. So the only way you're getting it, unfortunately, is on Amazon UK. I don't recall this actually being that much money at all. Dazzler is the distribution company, but Universal, as I said, has a hand in it. Breathe while you still can. I was rewatching it last night. I've seen it a few times now. I want to read the back of the box. I don't usually do this, and I've been saying that with more frequency of late, but and boy, this is small type too, so you'll have to forgive me. But Tina and Ben, which by the way, Ben is played by James Jagger? James Jagger. That's Mick Jagger's son, Rolling Stones Mick Jagger. That's pretty cool. And he does look like his dad, really. It's pretty cool. He's not a bad actor. And neither is the girl who plays Tina. Tina and Ben are a couple of young YouTubers specialized in underwater exploration videos. Really all around. The first scene you see them in is actually in an old dilapidated, shut down hospital. Kind of reminds you of Session 9 a little bit. That's been vacated, abandoned as a result of a nurse who went amok poisoning kids, and the locals think it's haunted now. So that's the opening set piece. That's the opening scene where you get to see them, and that's in Ukraine, I think. And so that's how. So they go everywhere. And the whole point of Ben's, he's unfortunately for him, I think he's in love with the idea of views and reaching that million view vid than he is with, Jason used to say all the time, you know, it's not about the views or anything, but it's about your love for doing it. It's your love for reviewing. It's your love for film. It's your love for the process of it. The views come along with, and how that happens is how that happens. But Ben is really caught up on just, I think, you know, it's funny. I want to be an apologist for his character in not so different ways than I want to be for David Brandon's character as the director of the theater production and stage right. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think Ben's necessarily a bad guy. I think he's not as near as sensitive to Tina's sense of unsureness, I guess, especially going underwater. And you could tell, and she plays that character pretty well. He's not that sensitive to her, but she's coming along. Really, I think more to humor him than other. And so while diving in a remote lake, they discover a house submerged in deep waters, perfectly preserved house at that. What was initially a unique finding soon turns into a nightmare when they understand the house was the scene of an atrocious crime. Trapped with their oxygen reserves falling dangerously low, Tina and Ben realize the worst is yet to come. They are not alone in the house. Yeah, the directors of the mentioned Leatherface, which I'm a bit of apologist for. You would have to hear me go on a long rant why. I have my reasons, and I've made those reasons pretty clear in the past, be it reviews or the guys in body bags knows. But anyways, the Deep House. So, it's so interesting. Okay, so you got the bit of synopsis, right? The cinematography is out of this world. Let's get that out of the way. Working in a practical sense underwater is always difficult. And I think it's done superbly. I think the house that is built and submerged is fantastic. For the limitations of the budget that they might have been working under, I didn't check to see what the budget was on this. I think they succeeded in getting probably maybe the biggest bang for their buck, maybe. When I think the year this came out, which was 21, I haven't done this in a while, but I remember with Glenn, our Monday review on the Graveyard Shift podcast, we did our top 10 of that year. And I'm pretty sure all three of us actually might have had this as our number one film of the year. I was pretty high on it initially, and I still am. I've come down a few steps. The stairs. Don't follow the stairs down. That is visually speaking, that is a standout moment for me in the film. It's just the level of creepiness and atmosphere as you go deeper and deeper and deeper down. It has its moments. So it was my number one. I've come down a little bit on this. I think, and I'm like this with film. I'm either high on the initial viewing and afterglow of it. I'm still pretty high on Evil Dead Rise. And that experience in the movie theater was phenomenal. That's what an Evil Dead experience it should be kind of like, right? Without necessarily involving the original sequel or the first film, even Army of Darkness. But it was an amazing experience. It was a breath of fresh air, or a revisiting of similar air we breathed in the past. For those of us who are old enough to remember the golden years of VHS renting. Yes. Putting that age out there. I'm now more, I think, high on the possibilities that are inherent in this movie, of what this movie could have been. This movie really, really could have been really frightening. I think there's a few things that detract from it. I think knowing you're going into this with limited air, and the amount of talking that is done right off from the beginning. I mean, literally, as you step into the water, that should have been a lot of silence, a lot of just build the atmosphere, the slow descent. You know they're low on air. You don't expect them to talk a lot, and yet they do. And for the amount of talking and shrieking and screaming they do, well, mainly Tina, you would have thought the air would have been gone in half the amount of time. And so this kind of takes away a little bit. There should have, you know what I'm thinking of, man? I'm thinking of Dario Argento's second Three Mothers trilogy, not Suspira, but why did I just suddenly lose that? Oh, come on. Inferno, holy smokes, where's my head? The underwater scene, which if you've never seen Inferno, it is a mandatory watch just for the underwater cinematography and just the room that's completely submerged underwater. That is how you do a scene like could have been amplified to a much greater degree with this house. They really should have used that scene, and it might have been an influence on them in terms of a catalyst and wanting to do the film anyways. I'm sure being French, they're aware of Inferno, Argento's Three Mothers trilogy, but that piece of underwater work in particular, and I'm sure it had to have been a source of inspiration, but I wish they would have used it. And see, and that's where these guys sometimes I think run amiss a little bit. They don't follow through, I think, on using their inspiration more as a template. Using Texas Chainsaw Part 2 as a template to reach via through Leatherface in terms of the characters and whatnot. Using the scene from Inferno is a template more than just inspiration, perhaps if it was. Using it as a template but to a much greater degree for this film. It already seems to want to take its time, and I wish it would have gone to a greater degree in that idea. And just for those who are patient enough to go along for the ride, are patient enough to go along for the ride. You got the Montégnac family, who we find is been abducting kids, sacrificing them, but to really what end? I don't think it's really clear. To what end? This seems to have a Lovecraftian underpinning under it, and I wish that would have been exploited to a much greater degree in terms of what is motivating this family. You do get a few hints of pretty dark imagery in terms of the photographs, things they come across informationally as they start piecing things together. I think the house becomes awakened. I think really maybe the moment they breach the no trespassing sign, it begins to stir. But I don't think the house and its occupants are allowed to fully awake until the door to the basement is breached, the door in the kitchen, when Ben and Tina, at Ben's initiative, there's a giant crucifix with Christ on it, and they remove this without any thought, except for their shallow idea of superstitious people, which you kind of get at the initial gate of the property underwater, right? There's not much respect for that, and I think that is what burns them in the end. James, my son, my 12-year-old son's watching with me last night, and he asked me as they're descending, approaching the house. He's like, "Would you do that, Dad, if you could?" I'm like, "Yeah, heck yeah, I'd do that in 2 seconds. That would be amazing." What I would not do, if I was in a kitchen-like area and there was a door that obviously led further down into the home, and a giant crucifix with Christ on it was somehow keeping the door from being opened, out of my respect for the supernatural, theologically or whatever, I would not be moving that crucifix. I would make the right assumption that that's there for a reason and ought not to be moved. In fact, I would take it that as my go ahead to, okay, we've been allowed to see enough. Let's swim around where it seems to be safe enough, and then boom, let's get out of Dodge while the getting is good. But once that barrier is breached, it's like the Great Wall barrier in Pet Sematary, right? Once you breach a certain barrier, and that is a rule that is not defined at all in this movie, except for these two characters' inability to respect or understand, appreciate religious sensibilities in the sense of dealing with the supernatural and things that are put up as barriers. They ought to cause in us at least a moment of reflection, thought process here in terms of, do we move forward, and if so, boldly, or do we just take that as a hint, as the good old voice from Amityville Horror when when the priest hears, "Get out." That point, like Eddie Murphy says, you ought to get out of the bleep 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 house, right? You ought to just, that's your cue, get out. And they don't do that. But of course, it wouldn't really be a movie, right, without that breaching of the barrier and all that will come with it, and the awakening of the two elder Montégnac, Madame and Monsieur, I guess, or Mr. The daughter. We understand that one member of the family has, in the midst of their diving, we find out within the house, there is another member of the family, and this is also part of the cliche tale, is while all these kids are suddenly turning up missing, you have the locals. Yeah, something just fell over. Am I breaching something here in the supernatural? You come to find out one of the family members did get away from the locals when the locals come and basically have their way, and almost in a Beyond-like style way, right? Which gets played via video, which I wasn't that impressed by as much as I was with the screen being the exit out. We find out towards the end. A bit of a dour ending. I would have been fine either way with a more positive, whether it's one or both getting out of there. It is pretty dour in how it ends. And it kind of leaves you a little empty. I'll be honest. After watching it many times, it leaves you a little empty in the end. Like there's things missing. And you can't really, I think I've put my finger on a few things already. It just leaves you a little empty. Like, okay. All right. But I have to say, in terms of what they did do well, this is definitely, absolutely, if you're region free, this is region B locked. It is definitely worth getting your hands on. I want to say too, it still may be playing on either Prime or Shudder. I can't remember which. You ought to look for it. This is definitely worth checking out. And almost at 18 mark already. There's a lot I could explore and go into this. Some moments are pretty impressive. Some creepy moments. And then there's some moments that sort of, the use of the drone, I thought could have been absolutely mind-bogglingly more brilliant. I don't think the drone was used near enough as to what it was used for. That adds a level of its own creepiness, I think. I wish somehow the supernatural force of the home, of the house, would have somehow taken over the drone or had influence over the drone in a way that maybe caused the drone in of itself to become an antagonist in the film. That could have been creepy, really creepy. There's a lot of things they could have done. And this is sort of like Leatherface. It just sort of leaves you a little empty. You know, when you discover the deleted scenes in Leatherface, you're left with your hands up in the air going, no, why? Why did we not take that turn? And why did we not use that? And here you find some similar things where you're just like, why? But I think all in all, in terms of getting something original, this is a much better film than Leatherface. Leatherface is just filled with possibilities more than it's filled with anything else. Some of those possibilities are seen via the deleted scenes. And so, I don't know if these guys have really revisited their moment, say with Among the Living or Livid, Among the Living especially. And I've never seen Inside, so I can't comment on that. I can tell you with a movie from these guys, it is brilliantly shot. The cinematography is out of this freaking world. And you see a lot, it looks beautiful. The transfer is beautiful on this Blu-ray. And you see a lot more than you would think you would see underwater. As I said, James Jagger's pretty freaking good. Camille Rowe as Tina is pretty good. They both sell their parts pretty well. The elders of the Montégnacs are pretty good. Yeah, so I guess I'll just leave it there, man. 20 minutes in. Sorry for the long review. But you know, sometimes you just want to talk about things, and there's a lot more I can say. But the last thing I'll say is breathe while you still can. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it. It's not without its lack of things, I guess. But definitely worth checking. I think the best from these guys is yet to come. Let's hope on that as we end here. As always, enjoy the rest of Theme Week here at Body Bags. And if you haven't checked out the episodes involving our John Carpenter Top 5, Fulci Top 5, another one's coming down the pike in a matter of a week or so, foreign horror, definitely check that out. And as Body Bags continues to expand and become something a little bit different than what it was before, as always, we end these things off with Go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.
We might be useful to you.